What is Field of Glory Empires? Field of Glory Empires is a turn-based grand strategy game featuring single-player campaigns as well as PvEM plus multiplayer running on Slytherin's servers, if you're familiar with that. If you're not, it just generally means that you have an online way to play PvEM instead of having to do all that manually. When you start up your first ever scenario, you will be prompted with a bunch of difficulty settings that you can click between. Out of these 7 difficulties, 6 of them give bonuses to the AI against you, and 1 of them, easy, gives the AI penalties. There is no normal difficulty where everybody plays by the same rules because according to the developers, and according to most developers of games of this niche, the human brain is essentially cheating against AI, so they need bonuses, except for the fact that we will make one that penalizes them, but will never let you play fair because that, apparently, is unfair. Going with interesting niche decisions, the very first campaign you get prompted to play is actually a DLC grand campaign that it'll show it first and select it first and put it at the top of the list whether you own this DLC or not. Can you guess why? Because they want you to click on it, hit OK, so they can tell you to go buy it, naturally. Ignoring all these very weird developer choices, finally we get to the actual meat. The grand campaign and the purist scenario. The purist scenario is very short, 14 turns. It's a small little scenario. The main beef of the game is the grand campaign in 310 BC. They put E here for some reason, and then they stopped doing that when you get into the game. So apparently they had multiple individuals with completely different schemes of identifying dates writing the UI. It is quite interesting. I didn't mean for the intro to this to sound like a rant, but I just realized that they put so many weird things in the beginning. But hey, whatever, don't worry about it. So when we get in here, we can then pick our nations. You cannot play starting as every little province in the game because those are independent and can be taken over. And sometimes nations will come out of nowhere. For example, very reliably, near the beginning of every game, a new nation will spawn around here. You cannot select it to play as it because it doesn't exist in the beginning, but it is guaranteed to exist. You can only play as the ones spread around here that you see, all the different colors. The major ones focusing, of course, Rome, Alexander's heirs, and Carthage, given that this is an era where the Roman Republic was on the rise after the fall of Alexander's empires. You will be given a little bit of context as to what every nation that you click on is and how it will play. You can see the gameplay. So what the devs say your gameplay experience will be like, and you will also be able to see the starting modifiers for every nation. A lot of these can be changed. A lot of these cannot be. Most of them you have no direct immediate control over. There's a lot of RNG in this game. It has little difficulty and interest ratings. These can mostly be ignored because they're very strange. Interest to whom? Difficulty to whom? I haven't found these ratings to be very sensible so far, but you'll select a nation, you'll start it up with your context, you'll get a little bit of a preemptive thing, and then you'll get into the game. As I said, it is turn-based. You have different buildings of 4 main different categories. You click this little button here to start building in any province that you have selected, in every region, I should say. Provinces are more fully like this. I can hover over a province name and we could see what forms the province. You have to hold a majority of province locations to actually form a province. And when you have a province, you can automate what I'm about to show you, which is building, where you have to get a list from your advisors every turn of different buildings you could build. There is no manual way to select any buildings that you want to build. You must get RNG selected, the potential buildings, 1 from each category, that can be built here, and then you must pick one, wait till it is done, or change it in the middle. You could even shuffle these different proposals, but you could always get some of the same ones over and over again. You can also then assign your populations, here, your pops, to these different categories to be productive on them, whether that be food, infrastructure. Food is obviously for eating, but also for growing your population. Infrastructure is for building these buildings. Money is for buying things. That's for money. Culture is for a very unique thing in this game. This is part of the core gameplay loop, is managing your pops and your buildings. But as I said, when you get a province, you can actually automate this. There are some different map overlays here, but most of them you won't really need to reference very often. You can thankfully search. For an age-odd grand strategy game having such accessible features, I feel up to this point is kind of a rarity. As per usual, at the top you have the identifiable, spendable resources. This is very common in grand strategy games and RTSs. You have your money, your manpower, your metal, and your legacy. Legacy is the only one up here that you don't really spend. Legacy is like score. It's how you win the game. You can spend it on certain events, but generally whoever ends the game, which is a 500-year period, unless you're playing the DLC. If you are, I can't help you, I don't own it. But whoever ends the 500-year period with the most legacy is the one that wins. And if you are in first place and you're 3 times ahead of the person in second place with legacy, then you just win right on the spot. There is a nation panel where you can see an overview of your nation, see the modifiers, decisions that you can make. These are not one-offs, most of them. They will cycle in and out, so you don't have to do all of them. Most of them, a lot of them, are not even helpful to do. You could see objectives, which are things you have no control over that will be automatically generated for you. You could see one on the map right here. This is an objective. Take this over and you get a bonus to the progression of your nation and to your legacy. Again, you cannot set them, the AI sets them, and if you don't specifically follow them, then you're technically not min-maxing, because once they're set, when you take them over, they will pretty much permanently be there, generating you benefits, as opposed to if you own something already, there will never really be a objective set there, nor usually in your allies' lands. You can see the modifiers for your nation traits. A lot of this comes from your leaders, but also your government type. You can click right here to see the different forms of government. Now, this is actually a big thing of the game, is you will accumulate these little pips. Let me show that off first real quick. If we go to progress and decadence, if you accumulate these top pips, the progress tokens, you can advance to the right to a new type of government. If you get these bottom tokens, then you will go backwards. So we start as a stable republic. We can regress into an old republic. If we become an old republic, we can then become a decadent republic. And this can be pretty bad. Civil wars can start from this. The nation can just break into itty-bitty pieces as well. However, as a stable republic, we could go into a glorious republic, for example, and then eventually become an empire. Eventually, the end game sort of has you as like a glorious empire all the time, which makes you earn a lot of decadence. The higher your decadence, the more likely your nation's just gonna fall apart. Decadence is the thing that stops you from warmongering and taking everything over and just being stupid. You balance this by generating culture and generating things that remove decadence. A lot of these will be unlocked more and more as you go further into the game, but generally this kind of stuff comes from your buildings. One good reason to min-max your building placement instead of automating it. But at least if it's automated, you know you're playing at roughly the same level as the AI, unless you're on balanced or above, in which case they have bonuses that you do not because the human brain is cheating, blah, blah, what we talked about earlier. Legacy, this is how you win the game. You can generate it from culture that is accumulated in provinces, as well as from your government, from wonders that you own, and from the amount of objectives that you own. Decisions can also generate them. You can lose them via events, war goals, and other things. You can acquire them that way as well. And again, whoever comes in rank 1 at the end of the game wins. The game has a ledger with a bunch of very useful information that you could see about others. You could sort by factions and see their resources, their population. A lot of this information ends up being estimates and not like a guaranteed this is the exact amount, because why would you know the exact amount, I suppose. This game has a we go system, so when you end turn, everybody's turn resolves at once, and this is part of how the multiplayer works as well. Let's say you have 8 players playing the same game. It's asynchronous, so everybody will take their turn to queue up their end turn, and then when everybody's end turn is queued up, it all plays out all at once, and then you get a notification, and then you guys can keep playing. In single player, you just end turn and keep playing immediately. Diplomacy is a little interesting. You click this little diplomacy, you click another nation here, and then you can go to war, try to make an alliance, which is RNG based on a chance. Everything else is usually handled via transactions. You can have client states. There's really no more depth than that. Cooperation is literally just a way to like increase relations. You could give money and manpower, other resources. You could try to trade regions with each other, and the AI do trade regions quite a lot, which is very unique to this game. Most games do not let the AI trade regions, but this game does let them trade it quite a lot, and you will see this kind of behavior quite a lot. You can offer gifts or insult to try to change your relations as well. You could try to have somebody declare war on someone specific as well. The options here are both limited in many ways, and yet they are more abundant in some ways than other games as well. It is definitely a pretty nice grand strategy game. It has its depth and its focus, but it's definitely not the hardest thing to wrap your head around compared to many others that I've showcased on this channel or that exist out there. Armies are represented on the map as such. Units are represented by these little cards here that you can then send into your enemy's lands, for example, that will generate fights. The fights play back in an automated fashion with some dice rolling unless you own Field of Glories 2, in which case you can export one of these battles to that game and play it there and export the result back into this game. If you are an achievement hunter, just note you cannot 100% this game unless you own Field of Glories 2 alongside this game, just so you're aware. So that is a bit of an interesting feature. Personally, I find the war system, the fighting system as it is, to be fine. It's kind of hands-off. You don't have direct micromanagement control over it like you would in Field of Glories 2 if you export it to there. Yet, I find, given that the game's grand campaign already goes on for so long, that's kind of fine, because the battles can go on for quite a while as well if you export them. And the automated system is just a nice way to not have to min-max micromanage everything, in my opinion. Yet some may appreciate and even prefer the system that I have just expressed that exists, that you can export the game. However, that is essentially right there. Those are the basics of this game. That is what you need to know. Thankfully, pretty simple to go over. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments below. If you have any suggestions for other guides you want to see, feel free to leave those in the comments below as well. I have a playlist in the description below where I will be putting any future guides that I am making on this game. Hopefully, this video has assisted you in whether or not you wish to make a purchase, and or, you know, if you wait for a sale or get it right now, maybe it's full price, up to you. I just hope that you found it helpful. For now, though, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.